Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, is in South Korea right now. That is, if you weren't aware, historic. That has not happened before. And because of that, is giving people hope of that finally there can be a cessation of the state of war between North and South Korea, which has continued for well over half a century past the actual end of hostilities during the Korean War. And it is a cause of a huge amount of both tension between North and South, and the economic strain. And obviously, if you know anything about North Korea, you know that the situation there is about as dreadful as anywhere on the planet or in most sci-fi movies. And so now he's there, and they're meeting, and they're talking, and hugging as well, which is exciting. And we want to give you just a little bit of what they said. They each delivered speeches about this event. Here first is South Korean President Moon Jae-in, who said, "Comrade Kim, for the first time in our history, you crossed the military demarcation line. It is no longer a symbol of division, but a symbol of peace." It's also still the DMZ though.
Right.
But I like what he's saying, and there you're gonna see it. Amazing timing from Jesus Godoy there, thank you. And he steps across it. There was some question about whether he'd be able to, but he did. He made it across, and there they go.
It's like The Odd Couple. It's like, just put a line down the middle of the room.
Yeah.
If one was.
Right, exactly.
You know where I'm going?
It's actually pretty amazing. I mean, them shaking hands, like if you've been following, not just under Trump, if you've been following the situation in North Korea, you know that there's not just the constant threat of violence, obviously, that more artillery is trained on South Korea from North Korea than anywhere else in the world. It's the most militarized portion of the world. But threats constantly. Like if you live in South Korea, you have known, or at the very least, we talked about how the younger generation is a little bit more used to it, but your parents grew up under the threat that at any second violence could start and it would kill hundreds of thousands of people.
They did this poll that's like, how afraid of North Korea are you? And the younger generation strangely was like, I'm not as worried as they have been. But it's not because relations had been any better. It was just because you were so used to this weird situation and you couldn't do anything but kind of, in a very strange, resigned way, just kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
That's everywhere. It's like a lack of education, which is why, unfortunately, Americans are going on tourist trips over there trying to steal posters.
Oh God, yeah, my
computer.
computer.
It's unfortunate.
We're gonna talk about that a little bit later on, but yeah.
The fear is not, I think it's a lack of education thing.
Yeah, and it's a super secretive regime. That's the thing, is you don't know exactly what's happening, and they have sent people from, there had been delegations that's gone to North Korea before. And they happen all the time, whether it's an official delegation from our government or if it's just like people who have been selected and allowed to go do some reporting on North Korea. But it's always been such a well-curated experience. Yes. They only let people out to do demonstrations of how happy they are.
They go to one specific hotel, which is the nice one, kind of, but it's the one they're allowed to go to. Yes, totally, and like as you said, we know very little. I've been lucky enough that in the past I've been able to interview people who've escaped from North Korea, who grew up there and lived there, lost most of their family. The rest, for all they know, might well be dead too because there's no communication. But even they don't know much about what happens in other parts of North Korea. There's so little both access to information and willingness to spread it because of the concern that whoever you talk to could possibly turn you in, report you, things like that. It is a totalitarian society, of course.
Isn't it weird, like those images, it looks like a weird first date? Like, what'd you do today? We took a walk, we planted a tree, and it's strange because and it's like maybe my parents, it's like the Parent Trap.
It's also super smiley and happy, and I don't know if I'm asking for an alternative to that, like just be mad forever. But if you didn't know what we do know, it just, I don't know, you think, oh, it's two happy, awesome people who really take care of their people, both of them. And
you would hope.
They're smiley, and
the question is like, is this real?
Well, hold on one second.
Okay.
Before we turn to that,
Sorry, John.
so I think everybody wants this to be a good thing, and so that's the way most of them are presenting it. We'll turn to the cynicism in just a second. But first, the reason that we have such hope, I suppose, is they signed the Panmunjom Declaration for Peace, Prosperity, and Unification on the Korean Peninsula during this trip, which commits the two countries to denuclearization and talks to bring a formal end to the conflict, which you should know they can't do themselves. Both the US and China also have to be included because both the US and China were involved in the Korean War. So it's gonna take all four parties, but very notably, it is starting off without Chinese representation and without representation from the United States. Although that doesn't mean that the US leadership wasn't chiming in that most diplomatic of forums, Twitter. Donald Trump tweeted, "Korean war end!" The United States and all of its great people should be very proud of what is now taking place in Korea.
The way Korean War to end seems to me, it should have been on an old-timey newspaper that like spins into screen.
Yeah. And maybe like some
end.
some waif runs up to you with a copy and you buy it for a nickel.
Yeah, extra.
Yeah, extra. Yes, so that's the good stuff. That's the good news. That's why we're excited. Are there any reasons not to be excited, perhaps?
Well, I mean, we're talking about like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? And what about the people who are not, like, is this even a thing? It's heavily symbolic at this point.
Yeah.
It's like.
So in the past, there has been this dynamic of North Korea having been levied, had many intense sanctions levied against them, and they're like, all right, that's enough. It actually really is affecting us now. And so they do things to raise their profile, kind of say I'm sorry, and then get those sanctions eased. This fits into that dynamic. The one difference is, for years and years, since the end of the Korean War, no American president has been like, yeah, I'll meet with that person.
Right.
Really. Clinton
Of course, this is
kind
the
of.
one.
But this, and ex-presidents have gone. Jimmy Carter went against, I think it was against Clinton's wishes. So during the Clinton era, Jimmy Carter was like, I gotta go do it. Met with Kim Jong-un's grandfather, who ended up just like dying later and like a few weeks later. But this is the first time, and it's strange that at the same time, Kim Jong-un might just be the kind of person who wants this clout. You just know so little about it.
Yeah, he could. Well, I mean, what we hope is that he wants recognition and access so much that he'll actually do the right thing to get it. That's possible.
Right.
It's also possible that he'll just show up for a meeting, be legitimized in front of the world and all that. I mean,
because
those
that
are the two
is
things.
Recognition and access, just in itself.
Yeah.
The upcoming meeting in May or June and wherever it's going to be. And
well, and we do have to acknowledge that while he hasn't gone to South Korea, South Korean leaders have gone to meet with him previously. And I saw on Business Insider, they had a great mashup of photos of of today's meeting and how similar the exact same photos were with a couple of the previous leaders of South Korea who had attempted to smooth things over, obviously unsuccessfully. Now, as you pointed out, one of the electoral strategies of the current leadership was we are going to facilitate moving towards peace, and it looks like they are doing that. It is possible that Donald Trump also deserves some credit. I think that if you don't care at all about South Korean politics, that's all you care about then. But as you pointed out earlier this morning, this is a strategy that they have been pursuing for some time.
Who's been pursuing?
South Korea.
South Korea.
The party that's in power.
Yes, this is something that they ran on. The previous president was kind of embroiled in certain scandals, and this presidential candidate was like, we need to mend fences with North Korea. I don't know what's gonna come of this. It is so unpredictable. It does seem like good news in the meantime. I can't really talk too much trash about it, and it's interesting that still there might come a time when President Trump is like, no, I'm not gonna meet with him. And there's a long road to go down. There's still, the US and China have not come to the table. And in the Korean War, it was like North Korea invading South Korea, the US being like, not on my watch, and then invades back up to the northern, and we got all the way to the northern border of North Korea, and the Chinese were like, not on my watch, and then they pushed it back to the previous line anyway.
Like you say,
So
I
those
don't
are
know
the big
what's going to come of this. And am I crazy for thinking history shows us absolutely nothing is going to come of this? But surprise me, I'm open.
Right, history would show us that there would be, after this, we find out that after easing sanctions on North Korea, they start a new nuclear program, one that they had hidden. And it's like, there will be a meeting between the South Koreans and the North Koreans in North Korea after that. Is that gonna be after the North Koreans said, listen, we proved we can launch a missile to the US. We are going to disarm the Korean peninsula, but that just means we're confident we've hidden our stuff enough.
It's possible. Look, my overarching goal is peace, obviously, both because I don't want us to be involved there, but about 100 times more important is I want the people of North Korea to no longer live in a literal hell on earth.
Right.
We're such a long way away from that.
Exactly, I agree. And that's what makes me question a little bit. It's very easy to go to South Korea. Obviously, it's not the easiest thing in the world because it took this long, but it's easy to go. It's easy to say you're not gonna do any more tests when experts believe that you've gotten all of the information you need out of nuclear tests, for now at least. So those things are a good sign, and they can give us some hope, but they're not everything the way that they're being pitched by the US leadership. And I think a lot of people in the media who have been desperate to say something nice about Trump or to present some good news because things have been going so badly for him, are going to use this in a particularly naive and ahistorical fashion to say he has already won. He's locked this thing up. And I hope that that's true, but there's a lot of reasons not to believe it.
There's a lot of hypocrisy in that, because any previous attempt by a non-Republican presidency to try to start some kind of back and forth to finish some kind of conflict has been looked at as full appeasement and an apology to her.
You shouldn't be talking
That's
to
true.
him.
Right.
Right.
And that is, we've
Now
shown the montages of Fox News talking about Barack Obama, obviously.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't watch this
There's a
Anyway,
montage for
well,
every situation.
That's true. Anyway, fingers crossed for the North Korean people. I hope that this works out. It would be nice to not have to have 20,000 plus US soldiers there for the next 1,000 years. That would be kind of awesome as well.
If you want to get the whole Young Turks show every single day, become a member, tytnetwork.com/join. And once you do, you'll be saying,
I'm like a smart person.
or you might say,
I think it's weird.
or you might say,
Oops.
no, that won't be that one. It won't be that one. It'll be great, trust me. tytnetwork.com/join.